So in this video, I want to show you a new approach to digital marketing when it comes to getting clients for your online business that doesn't require complex funnels. Right now, I'm a massive advocate for the fact that you need to stop using funnels. They're too complex, they're too technical, and too many things can go wrong. And especially when you're an online business owner, you've got so many things to juggle as it is. Adding in a funnel just makes your life more difficult. So essentially what I've been doing over the last few years is I've been building my digital marketing agency, but I've also been looking for a simpler and easier way for online business owners, specifically coaches, to get clients online. Now, my niche and the guys I help specifically are coaches, but if you're not a coach and you're watching this can still apply to you. Now, when I started out and I was using funnels, again, I started my business, my digital marketing agency, with very little knowledge and understanding, right? I had to build my skill set up from scratch. And because of that, when I first started using a funnel, I realized how complex and difficult it was. And because of the fact that I realized that complexity and difficulty at the start, now that I'm over 3 years into my journey, I realized for a business owner who is great at what they do but not great at getting clients, how complex it is. So what I've really been working on over the last few months is creating a really simple process to getting clients, and I call it a Beaker. So today I'm going to show you a bit more of a practical approach to how that works. So it's going to be like a bit of like a science lesson that we would have had in school back in the day, but yeah. So I'll do a little quick intro to me. My name's Alexandros, for short you can call me Alexi. And essentially what I do is I take the guesswork out of sales and marketing for coaches so they can focus on coaching and grow with predictability. And at the time of recording, I've generated coaches multi-six figures in revenue. So let's get straight into this. Now, specifically for coaches, right, when you're looking to get clients and you're looking for strategies to do so, there are a few key elements that you need to keep in mind, right? First of all, you're not expert salesmen, you're not expert marketers, and you don't want to be. And the coaching business model is simple. So what that means for you is that whatever model of getting clients that you use, it needs to align with the fact that it needs to have that simplicity also. Now, the issue is with most funnels, like I say, is that they're extremely complex, right? So what that means for you is that you lose a lot of your time that you should be focusing on coaching, trying to figure out your funnel. There's a lot of technicalities to it. So you've got to become a good marketer, you've got to become a good salesman, you've got to learn how to fix each step of the funnel. And a lot of the coaches that I speak to who have been focusing on funnels have always ended up in a worse situation, or a situation where they don't enjoy their business as much because they're having to deal with this side of things. Now, let me also explain to you why funnels aren't optimal. Now, as you can see here, I've gone and bought some props. So we've got an actual funnel here, right? And this is a typical shape or design of a sales funnel that people would tell you to use. Okay. Now, first thing to note, right, is that just by the sheer design of the funnel, there's a hole in the bottom. So you're losing leads out of the bottom of the funnel, right? So let me show you what I mean by this. Now, again, I've got more props for you to show you. So let's look at, first of all, how a funnel works and why it's not optimal for you to use and why you need to take a different approach. So again, this is your funnel, right? Let's now imagine in this bottle of water, the water represents your money and your leads, okay? So with any sort of digital marketing strategy, how it works is that you drive traffic, you drive money, you drive leads into the top of your funnel with the hope of catching some before they slip out the bottom so they become a client, essentially. Now, here's the main fundamental flaw with funnels, which has never made sense for me and doesn't make sense for coaches. Okay, this is your funnel. This is your money. This is your hard-earned money that you're spending on adverts to drive traffic into your funnel. Now, if we look, when I pour, I don't want it to cover my face, but when we pour our money into the funnel, as you can see, it all slips out of the bottom, right? I hope you can see that, but it's all slipping out of the bottom. All the money is disappearing, it's coming out the bottom. Now, what that means for you is, because the money is coming through the top and coming out the bottom, as you just saw, it means that you now need heavy, complex processes to make sure the smallest amount of people possible slip out the bottom, and to make sure that you can capture some of the people that are going through your funnel. Now, this alone adds complexity. I mean, look at this by design. Even just doing it in a practical example, it's a mess to get it running. Now, obviously I haven't just poured the water into my lap. I've got a little container here, but even the fact of setting this up, it is complex, right? There is so many things that you need to do within a funnel to make sure that it works and to make sure that you don't waste your money and lose the leads. Now, here's the thing, right? So for you to actually capture some of the leads that have gone through this funnel, it requires a heavy sales process. And again, just by the design of sales, digital marketing, you're only going to capture a very small percent, and the rest have slipped out the bottom. But the other really important concept for you to understand is that only about 10% of your audience is going to be ready to buy here and now, probably even less. Okay, but with the design of the funnel, what that means is that you've poured the traffic in, you understand that less than 10% are going to buy here and now, yet you've allowed 90% to escape out the bottom. Look at this as like a drainage pipe, right? There's a hole at the bottom, and when you're putting traffic in through the hole, you are literally wasting time, money, and resources. It doesn't actually make any logical sense to use a funnel, okay? Now, again, I'm not saying they don't work. They do work. We've all seen people that get them to work. I'm just saying they're extremely hard to get working. And especially for coaches, these funnels aren't the most optimal way for you to get clients. Simply because, like I say, you've got to manage the people that come through. You've got to have heavy follow-up to ensure that the people that come through don't disappear. And because of all these little technical elements that you need to encompass to make the most of your ad spend, like I say, you're losing money, you're losing leads, you're losing potential clients, and you're making your life more difficult than it needs to be, essentially. So if any of you have used funnels before, you've ever considered it, again, what you're going to expect is that, like I say, you're going to pour money in, as I did, I'm not going to pour any more, but you pour money in, right, with the attempt of trying to catch people that are coming through your funnel and to get them as a client. But obviously the thing that people don't take into consideration is that there's a hole here. There's a hole right at the bottom here. So a percentage of those leads and that money is going to slip out the bottom, and a very large percentage, unless you have a very technical back end with a lot of emails, a lot of SMS, calling leads, doing whatever you can to keep them when still you're going to lose a big percent of them. And so what you can expect is that, yes, you will get some clients through it. You'll get a small percent of the people that you pour through end up being clients. But not only that, you're going to have to put a lot of time and energy into nurturing those leads, trying to convert them, and trying to make sure as little as possible of them slip out the bottom. Right, and again, this is why I say funnels aren't optimal for coaches. We need to go back to these 3 points. Coaches aren't salesmen, coaches aren't marketers, and the coaching business model is simple. The funnel, when you implement a funnel into your business, it goes against those 3 points, because you have to become a great marketer to be able to capture as many people that come through your funnel as possible. You have to become a great salesman to ensure that the leads that come through, you can convert the most of them that you can, essentially. And then lastly, obviously, you take away the simplicity, right? Because it becomes complex to try and get this working, but then to try and optimize it, because now you're adding layers on. Okay, you can't just coach and get clients in a very simple way anymore. You've got to figure out your funnel. You've got to figure out which step of the funnel is breaking. Look at your landing pages, look at your opt-in rates, track your stats, see where things are falling apart, test different angles. It just is a headache. So the reason I wanted to show you this first before introducing to you a Beaker is to show you why it's not optimal for coaches, because a lot of coaches don't understand why, and they just do it and follow the steps that the so-called gurus tell them to do without really any consideration as to why that's good or bad for them. So first step, stay away from these funnels. No matter what people tell you, yes, they will work, yes, they can work, but for a lot of you where you're at in your business, under sort of 10 to 15K a month, where a lot of you will be, these do not align with that, because you need something simple. You haven't got a big team to be able to manage it. So stay away with this, because a lot of people give coaches advice, not taking into consideration what coaches are actually like, what the coaches' strengths actually are. And they give you strategies that work, but they're just really complex to work. And again, like I say, it doesn't align. When I started my journey of helping out coaches, I did a lot of heavy research, talking to coaches, working to coaches for free, to really understand the niche and the coaching business model. And one thing that I found, again, like I say, is that coaches are never really taught how to be salesmen or marketers. They don't really want to be those things either. So when you're looking for a strategy, it needs to align with that. And like I say, a lot of these strategies don't align with that, unfortunately. So that's the first point. Ditch these, get these out of the way. Now, I'm going to put this down. I'm going to introduce to you the Beaker. So now this is our Beaker. Right? This is our new approach to lead generation. And this is the strategy that I've come up with when it comes to generating leads, containing them, and turning leads to clients. Now, again, like I say, I've tried pretty much every strategy under the sun that you could possibly imagine. Okay, every type of ad, every type of funnel. And I was just finding that, okay, yeah, they work, but they're all very complex to work and to get working. I just knew there had to be a better way, essentially. So when I was looking at a new way of developing a process, I was just thinking to myself, those points that I mentioned earlier, has to be simple, has to mean they don't have to become expert salesmen, and it has to mean they don't become expert marketers. Now, the main reason that a funnel adds complexity and makes you become those things is because of the hole in the bottom. Because of the hole in the bottom, you've got to spend so much more time, energy, and resources to ensure that the leads that you generate don't disappear and that you're not wasting your money. So when I decided to pick a beaker, I was looking, obviously a funnel is something that's used in cooking, in science, and it's a shape, it's just a shape, right? So when I was looking for a shape and a way of developing a process around a shape, I was thinking it needs to take away the throughput and it needs to add the simplicity. And this is how I came up with this essentially. Now, as you can see with the beaker, there's one point of entry and that's it, okay? Nothing can get out of this beaker unless I physically turn it upside down. Okay, a bit of water came out there from before, so now my chargers are wet. But anyway, so what you need to do is approach lead generation with this new mindset. And the mindset is, how can I contain people in my beaker? How can I keep people in my world? So I optimize my ad spend, I don't waste the leads that I've generated, and I've got the best chance of signing these leads as clients, not just for now, but for also 10 years down the line. Now, obviously, the important factor for you to consider and to understand is that, like I said, only about 10 to 20% at a push of your market is going to buy straight away to within a month of meeting you. The other 80 to 90% aren't going to be ready to buy till down the line. And again, that could be 6 months, that could be a year, that could be 2 years. But people waste these opportunities, and these opportunities shouldn't be wasted because you've still spent money to acquire these leads, you've still put time, energy, and resources into it. Just because they don't convert immediately doesn't mean they can't convert, which is a really key important concept here. And this is also where the beaker comes in and helps you, right? Because again, just by the nature of it, let's get the water again quickly. Just by the nature of it, again, the water's representing ad spend, money, and leads that we generate. When we pour these leads into our beaker, let me just fill this up a little bit. You can see as I'm driving, so to speak, the traffic into it, the spend into it, the leads, it stays here. It doesn't go anywhere. So what does that mean for you? That means very simply, you've got a very good chance of converting 1% of the people that sit in your beaker, but you've also got an amazing chance and a very sure chance that down the line, you are going to sign clients, even if it's not straight away, because they're still in your world, they're still in your ecosystem, they're still in your beaker, they're still here to be nurtured and to be sold to down the line. And this really aligns with the simplicity of the coaching business model. Again, I'll break down how this works in practical terms in a bit more in a second, but this is simple, right? If you compare it to the funnel, even me just setting it up and pouring water down it was a headache. I was thinking, right, I've got to pour the water in, I've got to make sure I've got something underneath to try and catch the water so it doesn't go all over me, I'll make a mess in my office. But this, I went, all right, just bottle of water, let me pour it in. And it's the same process and the same outcome, the same effects that you will see when you start to do lead generation with this approach. So what you need to be thinking when you're now running ads, driving traffic to yourself and trying to generate leads is not, how can I drive this traffic and lose 1% of it, or how can I funnel this traffic essentially, but instead, how can I contain this traffic in my beaker and ensure they're here for now and down the line? So this is the new way to start approaching lead generation. Now, before I go any further, let me just share with you a couple of results, right? Because anyone could come on here and just flash around some science equipment and go, do this instead of that. So let me give you some examples. So for example, Susanna, a career coach, okay? She came to me, she'd made 5K in 2023. She was using funnels. She was doing all the things that the typical gurus were telling her to do. But because of that, she made no money. 5K in revenue for the whole of 2023, which obviously isn't great. Now, what we did is we installed the beaker into her business, showed her a new way of generating leads, of running ads. And in 2024, she then went to 76K in revenue. Now, the beauty of this was when we were driving leads to her, traffic, running the ads and things like that, each month she would get leads that came through and she would sign them on board straight away. But the beauty of it is that we worked together for over a year, and what would happen is sometimes is like 3 months later, a lead would come back, jump on a call and sign up because they were in our beaker. Now, if we did a funnel like she was doing before, those leads would have just disappeared. We would have just lost them. We wouldn't have really had a process to follow up with them efficiently. And this is the other point to consider, right? Is that when you're trying to follow up and nurture leads in your funnel, you forget about a lot of them, and the way it's designed and the complexity of it, it's impossible to keep up and catch up with all the leads that you've generated, right? So I mean, for Susanna, for example, we were generating her about 20 to 30 leads every single day. So do the maths of how many that is in a month and do the maths of what that is over a year. There is no physical way that she could have managed and maintained and looked after those leads over that period if she was using a funnel. But because we use the Beaker, it's a very simple way of nurturing the leads and trapping them in our world that she didn't have to do any extra effort to nurture them. And byproduct of that, like I say, she was getting leads coming back to her and clients signing on 3 months, 6 months after we generated them as a lead. So another example, Jane, a relationship coach. So she was a bit more established than Susanna. She was doing about 5K a month in revenue with her business. And she had tried every strategy under the sun. She'd spent thousands on failed marketing attempts. She wanted to grow, but she just didn't know how, right? She tried all the funnels like me. She tried all the marketing tactics, which included the funnels, and just got no real results. Again, I gave her this Beaker approach process, very simple, very easy to implement. And from that, she went on to hit a record month of £17,435, I believe it was. And again, I could give you another example. Steve, a mindset coach, he had again tried pretty much every strategy, every platform. I showed him how to use a Beaker, and instead of funnels, showed him a very simple way of generating leads and converting them. He added 5K a month in revenue to his coaching business. And those are just a few examples, right? I could go on, but I just thought I'd give you a few there. Now, it's really important that you start to implement and approach lead generation in this way, because this way is going to make your life easier than you could possibly imagine. Now, again, I want to make it clear, these other strategies you see online, they do work, but they're just not aligned to the coaching business model and they're too complex. This is so simple, it doesn't almost feel fair to have it when it starts going, if that makes sense. Like some of the guys like Susanna, like she's getting 20 to 30 leads a day of people who are her dream clients, and she's booking sales calls on a daily basis. Right? And there's other coaches out there who are running funnels to a low ticket or trying to do an organic funnel, organic content funnel, and they're barely getting any leads that are qualified, and they're scraping the barrel for people. So this is really, really key concept for you to start approaching your lead generation. Now, the way that you actually do this, just to give you a bit of an intro, is actually to do with the types of adverts that you run, right? So most adverts apply funnel principles. So if you do a PDF, an ebook, a webinar, the idea is that you funnel people through it. Again, it's with that mindset of how do I funnel people through, and subconsciously you're saying to yourself, how do I lose 1% of these leads essentially? But with the ads that we run with the Beaker, again, the ads are started and begin to be run with the intention of how do I make sure that all the leads that I generate are here now and for the future? So I can convert the ones that are always going to convert straight away, but I can also nurture the ones very easily that are there down the road. And the way that you do that is you run ads that trap people in your Instagram. So what I mean by that is you get ads that encourage people to follow, interact, and come into your world as your Instagram page. Now, we position your Instagram as the lead magnet. And by doing that, what it means is that people follow us, people come into our world, and by them then being in our Instagram, in our world, every time we post a piece of content, every time we share a story, we are nurturing that audience, okay? Now, obviously there's some technicalities in terms of what content you share, how you share it, what the intention of it is behind it. But when you start sharing specific content within the Beaker style of approach, very simply, you will start to sign clients, you will start to nurture your audience, and you will start to have a very, very simple process of generating leads and getting people on board pretty much. And it's pretty much as simple as that. It's about running ads that drive people to your Instagram, trapping them in your Instagram by encouraging them to follow, to interact, and to outreach to you, and then creating content that nurtures them by solving their problems, helping them achieve their goals, right? And like I say, very simply, by then doing that, you are creating an ecosystem, creating a world, creating a Beaker style of approach, which means you have the simplest chance of generating the lead. So again, going back to that Susanna example. So Susanna, for example, would run these ads, drive people to her Instagram, trap them in her Instagram, create content, which I showed her very specifically, which nurtured that audience and got them bought in on her, right? Because your content now becomes sales assets. It gets people pre-sold on you and what you're doing. And because of that, like I say, she'd have people coming, messaging her, booking in for calls and signing up straight away. But she'd have people 6 months down the line who have been watching her content for 6 months going, okay, I'm ready to change. I'm ready to get to the next level in my career. I've seen your content. I've seen your results. I love it. Show me how to do it. Let's go. That's essentially how it works. And it's so simple. Now, obviously, There's a few bits around it to get it up and running in terms of getting your marketing message right, getting the offer to the market right, getting how you position yourself and making sure that you position yourself as an expert right. Okay, so obviously you have to look like the go-to expert that you are to get people trapped inside your beaker. But once you do those few little details, which are easy to do with the amount of times I've done it, it's sort of become second nature for me now. You create a beaker, you create an ecosystem, you create a world where the people that come in don't disappear and they're here now and 6 months down the line, like I say. So you've got an easy way of generating clients, generating leads, but also nurturing them for the future. And I think this is especially important if you're not just looking for a quick cash grab. You're not just looking to quickly magically sign on some clients, but you're actually looking to build a long-term sustainable business. This is the approach you need to take. Now, I hope you found this useful. I hope this gave you something to think about and a new perspective in terms of how you can approach lead generation, why you should ditch funnels, and why you should start using beakers. Now, again, there's only so much I can share in a YouTube video. And again, I didn't want to go overboard. I just wanted to show you the actual physical representations. But look, if you're looking to grow your coaching business, if you're fed up of complex funnels, if you want a simpler way of growing, which doesn't require you to be an expert salesman or marketer, then very simply, there's going to be a link below. It's going to be the first link in the description. It's also going to be the link in the pinned comment on the video. Click on that link, give you an option to go through and book a call with me. And on that call, essentially, it'll be a one-on-one call with me. We can go through and understand a bit more about your situation and see how a beaker could align with you. And then I'll break down exactly how we would install a beaker into your business and show you specifically how it will help you to get you to your goal with your coaching business. Now, some people use a beaker to get to as high as they possibly can, right? So for example, Jane initially went from 5K a month to 17K a month. But then again, you get some coaches who want just a bit more of a predictable income and they're not looking for that crazy, ridiculous growth. So it works in both ways. So yeah, look, if you're looking to explore that, if you're open to new ideas, and if you want a very, very simple way of getting clients, then feel free to book in a chat with me. If you're not quite ready to book in a chat, no problem at all. My Instagram will also be below, so feel free to reach out to me there, ask me any questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you with what I can there also. Lastly, if you don't want to chat, if you don't want to follow me on Instagram and ask me any questions, no problem at all. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you found this useful, because every Tuesday I'm going to be posting content exactly like this to help you with digital marketing for your coaching business.